the one thing I don't like that it promotes, to flip on a negative really quick, is I think fantasy football has sort of lent itself to people being fans of the players more than the teams. And I think that the casual football fan, if you're tuned out of your team, all of a sudden you start rooting for the player. All of a sudden, red zone is more important to you. Watching red zone is more important to you than watching your team. I don't like that it promotes that, but I like the idea of sort of if you could balance both and have your team, have your fantasy team. I don't care that much about my fantasy team. I'll keep an eye on it. I don't really care. I don't live and breathe it. I used to when I'm maybe in high school, but I don't do that anymore. I care far more about my over under picks and the Jags. That's what I care about. And the other ones I just like watching the games to watch the games. I don't necessarily know if I love how fantasy football has made it more individual than about the team, but that's just the nature of the game. I imagine young people, young sports fans, young NFL fans who are growing up watching it, growing up playing fantasy football and playing the video games and the Maddens and everything like that. I got to imagine that they're so coded to root for the individual that it's harder for them to root for the actual team week by week. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but let's think about it. If you're a Giant fan and you grew up in the New York area and the Giants have stunk for the majority of your life, but you have your fantasy team and you love getting, I don't know, like a big time receiver, Justin Jefferson, every year, you're almost more inclined to root for the Vikings and Justin Jefferson than you are the Giants because the Giants are never good. That's where I think fantasy football has had a negative effect. I'm not saying it's like high and mighty, you root for your team over anything, but I do think that there's a notion to be said about how young fans watch football, and it's becoming far more compartmentalized to cater to the individual player.
Do you have any evidence of this, or are you kind of just pulling this out of thin air?
I'm pulling this out of thin air.
Okay, fantastic. Because I can just tell you from experience that that's not how it works. Because a lot of times a player will determine the team. And I'm a perfect example of that. I'm a Texans fan because of Arian Foster. And then I started playing fantasy football and I drafted Arian Foster the first time, every time I could get him. Now, I hear what you're saying about maybe you are cheering for a bad team.
Yeah, I'm talking about week by week, year by year. Granted, you're not going to have Arian Foster every single year. Maybe that sparked your actual fandom. But I think
I told people I would quit leagues if I didn't get Arian Foster.
Rooting for your team year by year.
What I'm saying is it's not a bad thing to be cheering for a player if that player eventually turns into the team.
But that doesn't always happen. Keep that in mind. Let's say, I guess that one player they got when they were 10 years old led to their fandom of their team. Let's say the Colts. And the fact that they love the Colts so much, and that's fine. But year by year, if the Colts have a couple down years, therefore, but you're still into the fantasy, are you going to be more into the Colts winning 7 games with Shane Steichen, or are you going to be more into your fantasy team and Justin Jefferson on your fantasy team playing great and more, therefore the Vikings playing great?
So but it sounds like you're saying it's a bad thing to be cheering for players than a team.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it divides the fans' attention. I think that I think,
but they're still football fans because I think what fantasy football
I'm not saying
is
it hurts.
I
don't think it hurts football fans at all. I think it just makes it a little less about the team and more about the player.
That's a great observation, Colin. You just made this whole rant about how it's like detrimental for.
I don't think that's a positive. I don't think that's an ultimately a positive. I think it's good for football fans, but I think you don't think
if you're bringing in more dollars because more people are watching.
I mean,
the football
you're talking about
from
a business perspective, yes, but I'm talking about from a fandom perspective. I think the NBA deals with this. The NBA has a major problem with individualism and guys rooting for the player rather than the team. I think.
Why is that a problem, though?
You're talking about regionality of rooting for rooting for teams. I think it's sports is meant to be. You're meant to root for the team. You're meant to have a ride or die mentality with the team that you're rooting for. I don't think that happens as much nowadays. I mean, yes, there are the hardcore fans that pick it up from their parents and they pick it up from who knows, but there are a lot of fans who just root for players. And I'm not saying it's not how I do it. I don't like it though. I think it's a negative. And yes, you're right, more eyeballs in the NFL. The NFL is a bulletproof. We all know this. But you can't tell me that now versus 10, 15, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago, you can't tell me that people are more team-oriented now than they were 10, 15 years ago. I think that's what fantasy football has done. It is why has red zone become so big in the last 10 years? Because people, it's literally made for fantasy football. It's made for scoring. It's made for red zone opportunities. Yes, it's great to see the action. That's technically like the brainchild behind it, but it's made for fantasy football. It's made so you can see every score from every team, every turnover from every big moment from all around the league. It's a great product. There's no doubt that I don't like red zone. There are people that watch red zone over the teams. That to me, sort of counterproductive.
Well, because well, I mean, if you have a team that stinks, why wouldn't you just want to watch red zone? Like, I think it's okay if you are a diehard sports fan of a team, then watching red zone outside of your own team. Like, my dad's a Minnesota Vikings fan. You think he wants to watch that team each and every week, at least for the past 10 years or so? No, he's a football fan. He wants to watch football. He wants to watch good football. And I think that's what football fans want to do. And then fantasy football is in addition to that, where they can actually cheer for someone else besides the team that they're stuck with or that they're good for.
Take an over under. Come on. Grow up. Take an over under and
What's
take a team.
What is an over?
Take a team.
What's an over under if you're not betting on an over under?
You can take it for fun. Take the 8.5.
That's fantasy football.
No, but on a team. We're rooting for a team. I think there's something more honest about rooting for a team comparatively to a player.
I need you to make like an app that is fantasy football for over unders, and that they can choose that. That's what you want.
I think the over under win totals. I've been doing that since I was a kid, so I love the over unders. It's just always been my favorite thing. But yes, you're right. I should make an app that caters more to picking over unders, competing in a league about it with your friends. But you got money into it if you want to, but you take over unders on teams. That's what I would like. Make a draft and draft teams on the over unders. How about that? That's actually not a halfway bad idea. You draft teams and you draft the over unders of different teams. So for example, if you wanted to take the Eagles over on the team, that'd be number one round one overall pick, right? That'd be the number one overall pick. Getting the Eagles over, then the Bills over, and then you do like this team's under. There's something there. Hold on a second. We might just come out. You hear what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
It's not a bad idea. And all of a sudden you realize throughout the year, I got a really good team because I'm going to hit this over, that over, this under.
Here's what we're going to do. Well, we actually already have an app here at ESPN West Palm. It's called ESPN South Florida. Go download it today. ESPN South Florida. You can catch Sunday Huddle. You can catch Theoretically Speaking. You can catch Russo and Rizzo. All of our local programming right on one app. You can catch Inter Miami live sports action, live Inter Miami action with the ESPN South Florida app. And I honestly think, Colin, we have the options to design this app for ourselves.
Let's just add a new element to it.
Let's just add an element to it.
Add a league-based
Florida
over-under selection process in a league.
We can do this. We can technically do this.
Bring back rooting for teams, not players.